Hi, fabulous Entrepreneurship listeners. Today, our topic is something we've never covered before, the ugly truth about entrepreneurship. So we're going to go through that with our guest today, who is Yvette Bowden. It's nice to have you on our show, Yvette.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy that we're having this conversation. I wish someone would have had the conversation with me before I started the journey.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think we need to cover this because you can go into entrepreneurship knowing a lot more if you know the ugly side about entrepreneurship. And then you can make a decision, right? Whether you want to go forward with it right at the moment, or if you want to postpone it or not do it at all, right?
Or just, start that preparation early.
Yeah,
There's a lot
exactly.
to know.
Yeah, there's a lot to know. So before we get started in that, I'd love to our listeners to hear a little bit about your story, if you could tell us.
Absolutely. So, excuse me, in around 2018, I was at I went into a depression, to be honest. I had a really tough time and I felt very alone. And in that process, I sort of started thinking about all the, men and women who are out there who are, having a tough time with their mental health due to any sort of loss, maybe loss of a job, loss of a loved one, or loss of a relationship or marriage. I think we tend to sort of go into this cave when we go through something painful. And I know that there are millions of people who don't have resources. So I sort of thought about how can I help other people? And I think it was sort of my way of tapping into or connecting with others that have gone through something similar. So I started writing and the writing just took off. It literally, and I always say this, the book wrote me. I literally just wrote the whole journey about going from divorce to depression to that journey of getting therapy, figuring out how to even decide whether or not I wanted to do therapy. And that sort of took off. So I wrote the book I'd say it took about a year. But then I wrote the book and I had no idea how to get it published. So I had tons of research to do to sort of shop it around to different, publishing houses. And that was only one part of this journey because it was sort of like I was tapping into something, but I had no idea what I was doing, to be honest. And I started thinking about all the other, painful things that we go through as human beings,
Mhm.
in relationships, in careers, in life. And I started a platform, which is now awakenedwoman.com. And I started writing stories, all types of stories about my Latino upbringing, about, challenges in my relationships, in my career, with family. And as you know, we have millions of stories. And I've only written about 500 articles for the site.
Wow, that's a
And
lot.
well, we have a lot of issues, let me tell you.
Don't we
So
all?
so I had the book. I finally found an independent publisher to help me get it out there, which was great. It's a journey to becoming the best self. And it talks about how I went from, that depression to building the what it now is, the company. Um, and it's sort of, I look at it as a transformation. It's going from the ugly to the beautiful because literally I come out on the other side of that and I figure out not only who I am, but I figure out, wow, I have a passion, I have purpose. And that is what the book is about. But then the platform came along and I started sort of getting messages from women all over the world, and then men all over the world. And I was like, wait a minute, I can actually help more people. So, of course, the pandemic hit, and that sort of put a kibosh on a lot of our ideas and businesses. And I thought about, well, how do I write if I'm not living life? It's really hard for a writer to write when they're not living life, because you feel like you have nothing to write about. At least that was my experience. So I started tapping into other people's stories, and I created the AW Empowerment series. And it was literally just a series of interviews with women that we have seen in movies, women that are CEOs, women that are sort of perceived as they have it all. They're powerful, they're affluent, but I wanted to know their human story.
Yeah, the
So
backstory. Yeah.
yes. So I started reaching out. I mean, everyone was home, and I have been just so blessed and so graced with so many beautiful interviews. Um, and that started the empowerment series. And then in 2022, I had a friend who's a comedian who said, well, you write about women. What about us? What about the guys? So that's when the podcast came in. And I said, wait a minute, I could actually talk to obviously women, but I can also talk to men about the issues that, we talk about, and the issues that affect us indirectly and affect just human beings in general.
Yeah.
And that has just taken off. It's a whole different ball game, because I get to sort of pick people's brains,
Hmm.
and it's just listen to all these different perspectives. And it's not only inspiring for the audience, but it inspires me as well.
Yeah, exactly. I find that with podcasting, I learned so much from my guests. It's like having a university course. Like we've done over 240 podcasts, and it's the same thing. I mean, I could tap into any one of those guests if I needed help. I know. And they're all amazing people, just like yourself. So let's get
Oh, thank you.
started here about this ugly truth of entrepreneurship. So, talking about your entrepreneurial journey, what has been the biggest challenge for you as an entrepreneur?
Uh, we only have so much time, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I will be honest with you. I think there's been so many challenges, but there are two that really stand out for me. And we touched on it a little bit earlier, but I think the first one would be um the rejection part of it.
yeah.
you know I think you hear so many no's, or people ghost you, or people say, well, not, we're not really interested, we have something like that. There's so much rejection that you have to really prepare yourself financially, emotionally, mentally. I think that has been one of the most difficult things for me, because rejection doesn't stop. It's
No,
you're constantly, you're hustling for every opportunity, and there's always going to be no's. And
that's
I guess I've sort of learned how to turn it around. If I can get that one yes,
yes.
that's all I need.
And I
But
think
there's a
that,
lot of
yes, I think the hardest part when you're starting out, I don't know if you would agree, is that when you get all those, say, 5, 10 no's, not to take it personally, because it's not you yourself that they're saying no to. It's your offer that they maybe don't need right that minute, right? Or financially, perhaps they can't afford your offer, or whatever it is. So it isn't you personally. It's just, no, not right now. But it doesn't mean that that slams the door forever. It just means, no, not right now. But it might be next month. It might be a year from now. I've had people that have come back to me 2 years afterwards and said, hey, now I'd like to do whatever it is they wanted to do. And I'm thinking, wow, 2 years have gone by, but now they're ready, right? And they're more committed. And so therefore the project goes forward. In the 2
And
years, it wouldn't have gone forward because they weren't ready. So, you know what I mean? Like the no is not a final rejection, and it's nothing personal.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's really important to understand that it's not a reflection on you,
Right.
and you have to know your worth before
Mhm.
even coming into this journey, because if you don't, you will get beat up every day, and I still get beat up.
Mhm.
Sometimes things don't go your way and you ask yourself, well, what did I do wrong? Why is this person? You sort of start playing that comparison game,
Yes.
which is it all comes down to knowing your worth and believing in yourself.
And sticking to your worth, right?
Absolutely.
Knowing that value and sticking with it. Yeah. Which isn't easy at the very beginning, but you learn to get that shell, right? You talked
It,
about
ta- it takes time.
being sometimes you have to, if you're a shy person, you have to, or an introvert, you have to sort of push yourself to keep going over the offer, keep meeting people, keep networking, keep building relationships, and finally that yes will come.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And once you get that first yes, or the first few yeses, then you've got a good referral base. Those people that love your work will start to say, well, why don't you work with Yvette? She's wonderful at what she does. You know what I mean? And
Well, I
before
think the
you
other
know it,
I agree, the referrals are great, but I think, you have to, when you get that yes, you have to sort of ride that momentum and let that um carry you through the moments that you'll have no's, because there's always going to be no's. So you
yes,
can't just get, sort of knocked down when you hear a no. I think there are people who've been in business for decades,
yeah,
and deals fall through. It happens.
yes, absolutely. So what would you say, how can people support entrepreneurs in the entrepreneurial life?
One word for you: encouragement. I think I think there will always be someone in the room to give you reasons not to do something, to give you reasons, not to go for that dream, not to go for that goal, and to tell you about all the risks. I think encouragement is just so pivotal, because there are so many days as entrepreneurs that we feel, I know I do, I feel beaten up, I feel defeated. And just having that one person to say, don't you dare give up, this is your dream, this is what you're meant to do. And I get really emotional, because I think that even if it's one person that believes in you, obviously believing in yourself, nothing can replace that, but you do need that one person to say, you know what, you got this. I think that
Yes,
is
yeah,
pivotal.
yeah. You do need a few trusting people on your side that are going to keep you going when you're in the valley part, when you've had that day where you've got all rejections, right? And that person can lift you right up
I
and say, hey,
I
remember
feel
the other one that you got, that big deal that you got that you thought you were never going to get? Remember
oh,
that one?
my
No.
eyes get watery, because I just had one of those days. So I know, trust me, I know. I know.
So knowing what you know now, what would you do from the beginning that on your journey of entrepreneurship in retrospect when you look back?
Oof. Um, that's a really good question. I think one of the things that's really important is to build a network and build relationships, because the one thing I realized is that I can't do this alone. And
No.
I just learned this not too long ago. I can't, I was trying to do it all alone, and I realized that in order for me to um, just do what I'm good at, I need other people, other experts to do the things that I'm probably not good at. There's plenty of things I'm not good at. And I need to build a network. I need to create relationships in order to, not just help me learn, but help me, sort of guide me through the journey. Because there is no way that you can do all the other stuff, the accounting, the social. Well, I do my social media, but the graphics for the social media, just there's so many other things, the research, the sourcing guests, like there's just so many things that it's hard. It's really hard. And you want to find those people that are good at that so you can do what you're good at. So
Yeah,
I think
actually,
knowing that.
your network
Yeah.
is your net worth.
Yes, I
It
love
really
that. Yes.
truly is. If you have a good network, it's your net worth. They'll never leave you. They'll support you. Like, I have a few people in my network that I've known for 10 years or more, and they help me out of jams all the time. Or I know I can go to them and just ask them a couple of questions, and they have my back. And I do the same for them, you know? So we
Absolutely.
reciprocate, and it's wonderful. It's a really great network.
Yeah, and that I remember coming into, and I sort of I'm an entrepreneur by accident, I guess. But I remember that word that came up over and over, solopreneur. I
Hmm.
was like, nah, that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You do spend a lot of time alone because you're always trying to figure things out and trying to brainstorm, but that doesn't mean that you have to do it alone.
No, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with you there. So I'm sure there've been many lessons that you've learned thus far, right? So what would you say, which lesson do you think has been the hardest to accept? Is it the fact that, that you can't do it all on your own? Is that it? Or is there something
Yes,
else?
absolutely. Hands down, that has been the hardest thing for me because, just personally, you know, I think I get it from my mom, but every time I need to do something, no matter in what area of my life, I sort of have that I got this attitude. I could do it. Don't worry
Yeah,
about it. And I realized that no, you can't do this particular thing alone. And that
but
it's hard to accept that.
yeah, but you're a take charge person, so you think, oh, I can do that, right? It'll only take you 10 minutes to learn how to do that, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And it's been hard because even asking for help has, oh, it's humbled me because it's really hard to ask for help. It is. But you have to. If you want to succeed, you have to be willing to ask for help.
Yeah, and if you want to grow your business, you have to have that help because you're going to need more of it as the more you grow, right? As you
Yes.
say, you can't do it all yourself.
Yes.
So I guess it's when is the right time to ask for help?
Oh, well, don't wait until you're drowning. I can tell you that. Don't wait
Same
until you're
thing.
drowning.
Yeah,
um I would say as soon as you have that dream or just business idea, once you have that sort of foundation within yourself, you should start building your network. You should
yeah,
start, you know, s- just tapping into people that you can learn from. And sometimes it doesn't mean, you approach someone and say, I need your help. Sometimes it can mean, can you have coffee with me? Would love to pick your brain. That's asking for help indirectly.
yes.
So, as soon as you know that this is what you want to do, whatever it is, you have to begin asking the questions.
Yeah. And filling in the gaps of things that you don't know. And that could be anything. It's different for every entrepreneur. Some people struggle with the legal and accounting, and some people find that's a breeze, so there's no sort of formula you can give somebody and what area to help, to ask for help. You just have to figure out, as you said, what am I good at? That's my core, right? That's my business.
Right.
And then outsource whatever you're not good at and what's important to your business, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think I probably could have done that a little earlier, but it's okay. It's never too late.
Yeah, but
You
there's
live and
all
learn.
learning. It's all a learning curve when you're an entrepreneur. We only know what we know, right? And if we've never been an entrepreneur before, we don't really know what to expect. We have this vision of what it's going to be like, but it could be totally different than that vision that you have in your head. So, some things are easier than you think, and some things are harder than you think. And it's those things that are harder than you think that you need to get the help on right away. Because sometimes, what you might have been struggling with for weeks, an expert can give you a 5-minute coffee chat and clear it up for you. And you think, whoa, I just spent all that time worrying about it. And all I had to do was pick up the phone or have a coffee with somebody, and they cleared it up right away. And now I feel a lot better. Because that takes a lot of stress off you if you do that.
Absolutely. Definitely.
So, as a woman building your own empire, what would you say has been the biggest struggle in assimilating the role of the, CEO? What would you say has been the biggest struggle?
I think just owning the role in itself, feeling like um, I can make the decisions for that are good for the business. I think that's been really difficult because I'm human. I have insecurities and I have doubts, and you don't there's really not a lot of space for that because there are people looking at you for direction. And I think that it's not as easy as it sounds.
Right, right. But I think if you know yourself first, your strengths and your weaknesses, then you can work on the things that you consider your weaknesses and bring those up to be eventually strengths, right?
Oh, I wish I would have had you as a mentor when I started. I've had to learn, by bumping into walls.
Yeah, yeah. But that's true. Like in this book that we've just written, 8 Qualities for Great Leadership, my favorite chapter is one by Trevor Stockwell, and it's called Self-Leadership. And that's what he talks about, knowing yourself. Because if you know yourself, then you can lead better. If you have no idea what you're all about, you're not going to do a good job as a leader.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I didn't know any of that. I have the upside is that during this process, I have learned so much about myself.
Mhm.
And the things that I have learned just sort of slowly have helped me become that CEO
Yeah.
and be more secure. But like I said, there were a lot of, trepidations
Mhm.
and I've had to overcome all of that. Um I really didn't know myself very well. And I think the process has helped me evolve into who I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be.
Totally, totally. And you'll look back 5 or 10 years and you won't believe the amount of growth that's happened. You just won't, because that's the way it does happen. As your business evolves and grow, you do too personally,
Oh,
right? And
it's
then you
challenging.
come up to the role, the role becomes easier for you because you're repeating and repeating and repeating. And what I found out about learning about leadership when I was in the corporate world is I watched the leaders above me, and I would, they didn't know I was watching them, in the sense that I was assessing how they handled certain situations. And some of them did it really well, some of them didn't do it very well. So I thought, oh, I really like the way they handled that HR issue. And I'd file that in the back of my brain, or I didn't like the way they talked to that person on the shop floor, whatever it was, right? So you're making a mental note for yourself that as you rise up and become a better leader, that you're going to take the good, the best of the best, and leave the worst of the worst. And if you see
Yes.
any of the bad leadership skills in yourself in these other people, you think, oh, I better work on that. That's not a good photo op, to deal with it that way, and you can take all that into your personal life too.
Absolutely. But I do feel that, you never truly stop learning about yourself.
No.
So although I didn't really know myself well enough to um, embrace the role in the beginning, I think that it is a process. It's not, even if you know yourself at the beginning of the journey, you really don't know what you'll become. I mean, we're limitless at the end of the day, and
Mhm.
there's always something to learn about
Yeah.
yourself, which I think is, I would say that is there are a lot of growing pains, but it is the beautiful part
Yeah.
of this journey
Yeah,
because
you're
you
growing.
evolve.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're growing
yeah,
and evolving as a person at the same time. Yeah.
yeah.
And if it wasn't for entrepreneurship, you probably wouldn't have grown as quickly as you have, right?
Yes, absolutely. I really felt that because it doesn't stop. And
Yeah.
the growing pains are there, but they're there to teach you and make you better at the end of the day.
Yeah. So if there's one misconception you would like to clear up about the life of an entrepreneur, what would it be?
It is far from glamorous and as and so one of the and this is really um it's a bone to pick for me. I think because of social media and because of, how we're seeing so much of that instant fame, um, with, and it all started with influencers. You
Yeah.
sort of think, well, I make a few videos and I'll become famous or I'll become rich. No, no, you're not. Um, First of all, you don't have the freedom. Entrepreneurs don't have the freedom that I think is perceived. I am accountable. Not just to myself, I have a responsibility to, the people that I pay, the clients that I serve, the listeners that I serve. So I think it's really hard when you have all that pressure on you, to sort of pay everyone and make sure people have jobs and just that accountability is really difficult. I think when you have a 9 to 5 job, it's easier because you have that steady paycheck, you have your health care. Sometimes you can slack off and you can probably get away with it a lot of the
Mhm.
time. Um, but when you're an entrepreneur, you have to hustle for every opportunity, every call, every relationship, every penny, not dollar, penny. And at the end of the day, you might go home with nothing. So, this idea that it's glamorous, that it's fun, that you're traveling, that, first class, I'm guessing it came from social media, but it's far from the truth.
That's right.
Um, I think there's so many schemes and you really have to pay attention because it's a lot of work. And I will tell you, I think I get an average of 5 hours of sleep if I'm lucky.
Wow.
Um, yeah. So, and I'm not complaining. It's what I love to do, but it's hard. It's hard on you mentally, physically, spiritually. So I would love people to sort of open their eyes to the fact that I think being an entrepreneur is a lot more challenging than most are led to believe.
Yeah. Yeah, the glitz and glamour we see on social media is just showing you the glitz and glamour. It's not the real world.
And I think the other thing is, what we see, whether it's on social media or reality shows, you're seeing the highlights.
Yeah.
Everything that happens behind, that curtain is ugly. And that's why I say it. There's the
Yeah.
ugly side of entrepreneurship. It's the
Yeah.
ugly stuff that no one wants to see
Yeah.
or no one sees.
Yeah.
You're watching the highlight reels, which is,
Yeah.
we all love reels, right? But that's what you're seeing. So, just, I think that's something to be mindful of
Yeah. I
as you
totally agree.
think about, starting this journey.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you, Yvette. That's been a wonderful conversation the two of us have had. And I understand you have a special offer for our guests. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, the first 10 listeners to reach out to me via email, which is Yvette Bowden at gmail.com, will get a discounted copy of my book, A Journey to Becoming the Best Self, which talks about the journey of going from sort of being, in turmoil and coming out on the other side of that. The awakened person that I am today.
Fantastic. That's a great offer, Yvette. So the listeners just have to put in the subject line, Fabulous Fempreneurship Podcast offer. And then the first 10 that reach out to you will get a discounted copy. And the link to your email address will also be in our episode notes. And you can find those on fempreneurship.com/podcast. Look for Yvette Bowden's episode, and away you go. And we'll share this all on social media as well. So thank you for your time, Yvette. It's been a great conversation, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck going forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I love this conversation.
Yeah, me
Really
too. That was a lot of fun.
important. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you.